My brother accidentally texted me a voice note of my parents saying, "She's a worthless waste of space, we're ashamed to call her ours." So I saved the audio immediately and played it at their anniversary party before handing them eviction papers from the house I'd secretly owned. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe, say hello below, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support truly means everything. Let's continue. The notification timed at 2:17 in the morning. I was working late again, reviewing quarterly reports for the tech startup I'd built from nothing. My brother Noah's name lit up my screen with a voice note attachment. That should have been my first warning. Noah never sent voice notes. He preferred texts, said recording his voice felt too personal. I pressed play. "Yeah, Ma, I'm telling you, the party's gonna be perfect. Everyone's confirmed." Noah's voice came through clearly, then muffled shuffling. He must have pocket dialed me. I almost deleted it. Then I heard my mother's voice, sharp and clear as broken glass. "Just make sure she doesn't make one of her speeches. Always trying to make everything about her success, like we're supposed to be impressed. She's a worthless waste of space, honestly. All that money and she still can't figure out what actually matters in life." My father's deep rumble followed. "We're ashamed to call her ours, Patricia. 32 years old, no husband, no children, just that ridiculous company she won't shut up about. Meanwhile, Noah gave us 2 beautiful grandchildren and a daughter-in-law we can actually be proud of." My hand trembled so badly I nearly dropped the phone. My mother continued, venom dripping from every word. "Remember when she had the audacity to offer to pay for this anniversary party? Like we need her charity. The house she supposedly bought us. Please. We both know how that really went down." The audio cut off. Noah had discovered his mistake. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Sis, that wasn't meant for you. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and began downloading the file, backing it up to 3 different cloud services. My hands moved mechanically while my brain struggled to process what I'd heard. Worthless. 29 seconds that shattered 32 years. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen counter playing the voice note on repeat until I'd memorized every inflection, every cruel laugh. By dawn, I'd listened to it 47 times. Each replay carved the words deeper into my chest, but also crystallized something else. Clarity. My phone buzzed constantly. Noah called 6 times. My mother texted, "Sweetheart, are you coming to brunch Sunday?" As if nothing had happened. As if I hadn't just heard the truth about what they really thought of me. My father sent a forward about a church potluck. The normalcy of it all made my stomach turn. I made coffee and opened my laptop, pulling up files I hadn't looked at in years. The deed to their house, purchased in my name when I was 22. I just sold my first software program for $200,000. They'd been facing foreclosure and I'd swept in like a naive hero, buying their house outright and transferring it to them. Or so they believed. The paperwork told a different story. My attorney, a sharp woman named Valerie Boone, had advised me to keep the deed in my name for tax purposes. "Just temporarily," she'd said. "Transfer it later once the financial situation stabilizes." That moment never came. Over the years, I'd paid property taxes, covered a new roof, upgraded the electrical system. They never asked about any of it, just accepted it as their due. I pulled up another file, a detailed ledger I'd kept of every dollar I'd given them. The house, $185,000. My brother's wedding, $15,000. Dad's medical bills, $32,000. Noah's business loan that was never repaid, $45,000. My niece's private school tuition, $28,000 annually for 4 years. Christmas gifts, birthday presents, surprise vacations. The total made me physically ill. $397,612 over 10 years. And I was worthless. A waste of space. Someone they were ashamed to call theirs. The morning sun hit my face and I realized I'd been staring at spreadsheets for 3 hours. My assistant Janelle would arrive at the office soon, probably wondering why I'd sent her a cryptic 3 a.m. email asking her to clear my schedule for the week. But I needed time to think, to remember, to truly see the patterns I'd been blind to for years. I walked to my bookshelf and pulled down a leather photo album my mother had made me for my 25th birthday. Our beautiful family, the cover read in gold script. I flipped through it slowly. Noah's college graduation front and center. Noah's wedding an entire section. My niece and nephew's baby photos, birthdays, first days of school. Then I found my pages. My college graduation. One photo me standing alone. My master's degree, not pictured. The day I signed my first major client making my company profitable. Missing. The award I'd won for young entrepreneurs. Nowhere. You take too many work photos, my mother had said when I'd asked why none made the album. This is about family, sweetheart, not business achievements. Nobody wants to see you shaking hands with strangers in a pantsuit. I'd laughed it off then. Now the dismissal burned like acid. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through family photos from the past year. Noah's daughter's 8th birthday party. 73 photos. Noah's son's baseball games. Hundreds. The family reunion last summer. An entire digital album. Me in those photos. Background filler. Arms cut off in group shots. Face turned away. In one photo someone had literally positioned themselves to block me out. My phone rang. No again. This time I answered. Sis, thank God. Listen about that voice note. Tell me something, I interrupted, my voice eerily calm. How long have they felt this way? Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then, look, you know how Ma gets. She just says things when she's upset. You didn't return her call last week about helping with the anniversary party planning, and she took it personally. I was in San Francisco closing a $12 million deal, Noah. I texted her that. Yeah, well, you're always closing deals. His tone carried an edge I'd heard before but never truly registered. Some of us prioritize family over money. Maybe that's what they mean. Noah's words echoed in my head long after I'd hung up. Some of us prioritize family over money. As if every dollar I'd earned hadn't been poured into this family. As if I hadn't rearranged entire business trips to make it to my nephew's birthday parties. As if I hadn't sat through countless Sunday dinners listening to Noah talk about his latest entrepreneurial failure while I quietly funded his next attempt. I pulled up my calendar, color-coded and meticulous. Red for family events, blue for business. The past 12 months showed 47 red entries. I'd attended 42 of them. The 5 I'd missed. My nephew's soccer practice, a casual family dinner, 2 of Noah's kids' friends' birthday parties, and a random Saturday breakfast. Each time I'd been traveling for business. Each time I'd sent gifts, called to apologize, offered to make it up. The blue entries? 238. I'd built a tech company worth $18 million in 10 years. I employed 73 people. I'd created something from nothing and my family saw it as me choosing money over them. Not ambition. Not success. Not the security I'd provided them. Just greed. My phone pinged. A text from my mother. Darling, I need you to call the caterer about the anniversary party. They're being difficult about the menu changes. You know how persuasive you can be with these business types. The audacity of it staggered me. Less than 12 hours after calling me worthless, she wanted me to solve her problems. I typed and deleted 5 responses before settling on, I'll handle it. As I would handle it. Just not the way she expected. I opened a new document on my laptop and began to write. Project Anniversary, I titled it. The plan formed slowly, methodically. I had 33 days until their 40th anniversary party, an event I'd already secretly agreed to fund entirely despite their protests that it was too much. The venue alone cost $12,000. The caterer $8,000. Photography, flowers, music, decorations. I'd tallied $28,000 total. Money I'd already paid, deposits locked in. An elaborate celebration for 2 people who were ashamed to call me theirs. I spent the next 3 days digging through old memories, reconstructing a relationship I'd apparently imagined. Thursday afternoon I called my childhood best friend, Nicole, now a therapist in another state. We hadn't spoken in 6 months, my fault entirely, buried in work as usual. Tell me something honestly, I said after we'd exchanged pleasantries. Do you remember my family treating me differently than Noah? The pause told me everything. Emma, why are you asking me this now? Just answer. Please. Nicole sighed and I heard her moving to somewhere private. You really want to do this? Yes. Always. Remember your 16th birthday when they bought Noah a car for his 18th and you got a cake from the grocery store? Or how about when you got accepted to Stanford with a partial scholarship and your dad said it was too far and too expensive, but 2 years later Noah went to an out-of-state school with no scholarship and they made it work. My chest tightened. I remember them saying Stanford was impractical, that the state school had a perfectly good computer science program. Right. And then you graduated top of your class from that state school, got into a prestigious master's program, and your mom asked if you were ever going to be done with school and start a real life. Meanwhile, Noah dropped out junior year to find himself, and they called it soul-searching. He went back and finished, I said weakly. After you'd already built your company and given him a job there, which he quit after 3 months because you were too demanding. Nicole's voice gentled. Emma, honey, what's going on? Did something happen? I told her about the voice note. The silence on the other end lasted so long I checked if the call had dropped. Forward it to me, she finally said. I need to hear this with my own ears because that is beyond the pale. That's not just favoritism, that's emotional abuse. They're my parents, Nick. That's not an excuse. That's just biology. I didn't forward Nicole the audio, but her words planted something. Validation from an outside source. Friday morning I scheduled lunch with my company David, a 60-year-old former executive who'd taken a chance on my startup when everyone else had called me crazy. He'd become a mentor, occasionally a father figure, though I'd never admitted that aloud. You look like hell, he said when I arrived at our usual spot, a Mediterranean place near the office. What's wrong? I showed him the financial records instead of telling him outright. The ledger of family expenses, the deed to the house, everything. Then I played the voice note. David's expression transformed from concern to fury so quickly I almost regretted it. Emma Marie Thompson, tell me you're not still planning to fund their anniversary party. Oh, I'm funding it, I said, and something in my tone made him lean back. I'm funding it, attending it, and giving them a gift they'll never forget. I outlined my plan. David listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through shock, concern, and finally, grim approval. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You know, once you do this, there's no going back. They'll either recognize what they've done and grovel for forgiveness, or they'll double down and you'll lose them entirely. Are you prepared for either outcome? David, I already lost them. I just didn't know it until now. I took a breath, steadying myself. For 10 years I've been trying to earn something they were never going to give me, equal love. I can't keep breaking myself against that wall. What do you need from me? A witness. Someone who's seen my work, my character, who can vouch for who I am when they try to rewrite history. I met his eyes. Because they will try. David reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're one of the most brilliant, hardworking, generous people I've ever known. What they said about you. That's not truth. It's jealousy and resentment wearing your mother's voice. You deserve better. Those words from a man who barely gave compliments cracked something open inside me. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried for the first time since hearing the voice note. The next 3 weeks were theatrical preparation. I attended Sunday dinners, smiled through my mother's backhanded compliments, listened to Noah humble brag about his mediocre sales job. I played the role I'd been cast in, the successful but somehow still disappointing daughter, the sister who tried too hard, the family member whose money was welcome but whose presence was tolerated. Sweetheart, you look tired, my mother said one Sunday, examining my face with false concern. Are you taking care of yourself? You work too much. No wonder you haven't found a husband. I bit my tongue and smiled. Just busy with the anniversary party preparations, Ma. I want everything to be perfect for you and Dad. Her face lit up. Oh, the party. I've been meaning to talk to you about that. We've invited 150 people now. I know you said you'd handle the cost, but we don't want you to struggle. Maybe just cover the venue and we'll handle the rest. The venue that cost $12,000. They wanted me to pay the most expensive part, then take credit for handling the rest. I pulled out my phone and showed her the invoice I'd already paid in full. It's all taken care of, Ma. Everything. Consider it my gift. She actually looked disappointed. Well, that's very generous, but you didn't have to. I wanted to, I said, and meant it. I wanted them to know exactly how much I'd given when I took it all away. My father walked in and my mother's demeanor shifted. Carl, look what Emma's done for the party. Paid for everything. Isn't she thoughtful? That's nice, princess, he said absently, kissing my forehead. Hey, did Noah tell you about his promotion? Assistant Regional Sales Manager. That boy's going places. Assistant Regional Sales Manager. A title that came with a $3,000 raise and zero additional responsibility. I'd negotiated million-dollar contracts before breakfast, but sure, Noah was the one going places. 2 weeks before the party, I made a discovery that nearly broke my carefully maintained composure. My mother had forwarded me the final guest list, asking me to confirm the caterer had the correct head count. 163 people. Extended family, church friends, neighbors, my parents' college buddies. I scrolled through names, recognizing faces from childhood, people who'd watched me grow up. Then I noticed the pattern. Every single one of my professional contacts had been removed. My business partner, Sarah, who'd asked to attend after hearing about the party. Not listed. David, who my mother had met multiple times. Even Janelle, my assistant who'd helped coordinate vendors, was mysteriously absent. But Noah's entire office had been invited, including his boss and his boss's boss. I called my mother. Hey, Ma. I noticed some people missing from the guest list. Did it get cut somehow? Oh, you know how it is, sweetheart. We had to make some choices. We wanted to keep it to people who've been part of our real family journey, not just business acquaintances. Sarah's been my business partner for 6 years. We went to college together. She's not an acquaintance. Yes, but she's not really family, is she? This is an intimate celebration. The way she emphasized intimate felt like a slap. Besides, you know how those types get at parties. Always networking, talking about work. We want this to be about family and genuine relationships, not professional networking. Those types. My people. The ones who'd supported me, celebrated my wins, had my back. They weren't welcome because they represented the part of me my parents were ashamed of. I thanked her politely and hung up. Then I sent out my own invitations. If they wanted family, I'd show them what real family looked like. By the end of the day, 15 people had confirmed. Sarah, David, my entire executive team, Nicole flying in from out of state, my college advisor Professor Martinez, and several clients who'd become friends. They wouldn't sit with the main crowd. I'd arranged a separate section, witnesses to what was about to unfold. 10 days before the party, I sat across from Valerie Boone, my attorney, who'd been handling my affairs since I'd bought my parents' house a decade ago. She'd aged gracefully, gray threading through her black hair, but her sharp eyes hadn't softened. Let me make sure I understand, she said, reviewing the documents spread between us. You want to serve them eviction papers at their anniversary party, in front of 163 guests, immediately after playing an audio recording of them disparaging you? Yes. Emma, I have to ask, is this about justice or revenge? What's the difference? I met her gaze. They've lived rent-free in a house I own for 10 years. They've accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars from me while telling people I'm worthless. They've systematically excluded me from family pride while including me in family obligation. So you tell me, am I seeking justice or revenge? Valerie leaned back, steepling her fingers. Legally, you're within your rights. The house is in your name, you've paid all expenses, and you're not violating any tenant rights laws because technically they've never been tenants. They're occupants living in your property at your discretion. A 60-day eviction notice is generous. But, I heard it in her tone. But this will destroy them publicly. Your parents are what, 62 and 64? Where are they going to go? Can they afford housing on their own? My father gets a pension. My mother has her teaching retirement. Noah makes decent money now. Between the three of them, they'll figure it out. My voice hardened. Like I figured out how to build a company from nothing while they criticized every choice I made. And you're sure about the audio recording? Playing it publicly could open you up to claims of harassment or defamation. It's their own words recorded accidentally. Truth is an absolute defense. I pulled out another document. Besides, I had this transcribed and notarized. I want everything documented. Valerie studied me for a long moment. You've changed. When you first came to me 10 years ago, you were this eager young woman trying to save her family. Now you look like someone about to burn the bridge she built. Maybe the bridge was always on fire, I said. I was just too busy maintaining it to notice the flames. 3 days before the party, I did something I'd never done. I rehearsed. In my empty office after everyone went home, I set up a microphone and speakers, loaded the voice note and practiced my speech. The words caught in my throat the first 7 times. By the 15th run-through I could say them without crying. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for celebrating 40 years of my parents' marriage. They've built a beautiful life together, raised 2 children, and created what they believe is a picture-perfect family. But before we cut the cake, I'd like to share something that recently came to my attention. Something that made me realize I've been part of an illusion. I pressed play on the recording in my practice session, let those venomous words fill the space. Worthless. Waste of space. Each time I heard it, the wound scarred over a little more, turning from raw pain into hardened resolve. That's what my parents really think of me, my rehearsed self continued. Not the daughter who bought the house they're living in. Not the sister who funded her brother's dreams. Not the successful businesswoman who built something meaningful. Just someone they're ashamed to call theirs. My voice cracked on ashamed and I stopped, took a breath, started again. By midnight I'd perfected the delivery. Clear, calm, devastated but dignified. I practiced pulling out the eviction papers from a gift box. Imagined handing them to my father with steady hands. Nicole called as I was leaving the office. You still going through with this? Yes. Good. They deserve it. But Emma, promise me something. Don't let this make you bitter. What you're doing, holding them accountable, that's healthy. But don't let it poison the rest of your life. How do I prevent that? By remembering that their cruelty says everything about them and nothing about you. You're not worthless. You never were. And after Saturday, everyone will know it. I drove home in silence, rehearsing one final time in my head. 3 more days until I either freed myself or lost my family forever. Maybe those were the same thing. The venue sparkled with fairy lights and white roses, exactly as my mother had envisioned. Guests arrived in their finest, kissing my parents' cheeks, congratulating them on 40 years of marital bliss. I stood near the entrance in a navy dress my mother had once said made me look too corporate, greeting people with a smile that felt painted on. Emma. My Aunt Diane pulled me into a hug. Look at you, still single, but at least you're successful. That counts for something, right? She laughed, not realizing the knife she'd just twisted. My Uncle Bernard joined her, pumping my hand. How's that little computer business of yours? Noah was telling us about his big promotion. Assistant Regional Manager. Your parents must be so proud. They certainly seem to be, I said, voice level. Excuse me, I need to check on something. I moved through the crowd, noting familiar faces. My cousin Jennifer, who'd borrowed $5,000 for emergency car repairs, and never mentioned it again. My mother's sister, who'd once told me I'd end up lonely and rich like all career women. Family friends who'd watched Noah stumble through life collecting safety nets while I'd been expected to soar without support. David caught my eye from the section I'd reserved. He gave me a subtle nod. Sarah sat beside him looking somber. Nicole had positioned herself near the sound system, my designated tech support. Professor Martinez, the woman who'd encouraged me to start my company when everyone else had called it foolish, raised her glass slightly. My people. The ones who'd seen my worth when biology failed. At 7:15 the MC announced dinner. At 8:30 toasts began. Noah stood first, of course. To the best parents anyone could ask for, he said, voice thick with champagne and sentiment. You taught us what family means, how to love unconditionally, how to always be there for each other. Sis and I are so lucky. My turn came at 8:45. Showtime. I walked to the microphone, gift box in hand, wrapped in gold paper with a white bow. The room quieted. 163 faces turned toward me, expectant. My parents sat at the head table, my mother radiant in champagne silk, my father distinguished in his navy suit. They looked like people who deserved celebration. They looked like good parents. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here to celebrate 40 years of my parents' marriage. My voice came out steady, surprisingly strong. They've built a beautiful life, raised 2 children, and created what looks like a perfect family. Before we cut the cake, I'd like to give them a special gift. But first, I need to share something. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's sound system. Nicole gave me a thumbs up. Everything was ready. Recently, I received a voice note. It was accidentally sent to me, but I think maybe it was meant for me to hear. Judge for yourselves. I pressed play. The audio quality was crystal clear, thanks to Nicole's audio enhancement. My mother's voice filled the room. She's a worthless waste of space, honestly. All that money and she still can't figure out what actually matters in life. The room went dead silent. My father's voice followed. We're ashamed to call her ours, Patricia. 32 years old, no husband, no children, just that ridiculous company she won't shut up about. I watched my mother's face drain of color. My father half stood, then sat back down. Noah looked at his plate. The audio continued for 29 seconds that felt like hours. When it finished, the silence was deafening. That's what my parents really think of me, I said, each word deliberate. Not the daughter who bought the house they live in 10 years ago and never transferred the deed. Not the sister who gave Noah $60,000 for his wedding and business ventures. Not the successful woman who's paid almost $400,000 to support this family while building an $18 million company. I opened the gift box, pulled out the documents Valerie had prepared. So here's my gift. Eviction papers. You have 60 days to vacate my property. Consider this my final contribution to your family. I placed the papers in front of my father, turned to the microphone one last time. To everyone else, thank you for coming. The party's paid for, enjoy the cake. I'm done. The venue erupted into chaos as I walked out. I heard my mother's voice, shrill with panic. She's lying. That audio is doctored. She's always been dramatic. No shouting my name. My father silent. I kept walking. David met me in the parking lot with Sarah and Nicole. You did it, Nicole said, pulling me into a fierce hug. You actually did it. I can't feel anything, I whispered. Why can't I feel anything? Shock, Sarah said gently. It'll hit later. But Emma, you were magnificent in there. Dignified, clear, devastating. They can never rewrite this. My phone exploded with messages. Aunt Diane, how could you humiliate your parents like this? Cousin Jennifer, this is so petty and cruel. But others, Uncle Bernard, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. My mother's college roommate, your mother owes you an apology. Professor Martinez, proud doesn't begin to cover it. 3 hours later, sitting in my apartment with Nicole, the shock wore off. I sobbed until I couldn't breathe, grieving the family I'd thought I had, mourning the parents who'd never existed. Nicole held me, letting me shatter. What if I made a mistake? I choked out. What if? No. Nicole's voice was steel. They made the mistake. 32 years of mistakes. You just finally stopped accepting them. My father called once, 2 days later. I answered. Princess. Don't call me that. You don't get to call me that anymore. We need to talk about the house. Read the papers. 60 days. That's all there is to discuss. Your mother is devastated. This public humiliation was nowhere near what she gave me privately for years. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. They never called again. 6 months later, I'm still building. The company's thriving. I hired 3 more people. I started therapy. Nicole visits monthly. David tells me I smile more now. I'm learning what family can be when it's chosen, not obligated. Sometimes I pass my old house, see the for sale sign. They moved in with Noah. I feel nothing. They say blood is thicker than water, but the full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." I chose my covenant. I chose myself. And for the first time in 32 years, I'm not ashamed. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family? Let me know. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Until next time, protect your peace. Sometimes the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. Sometimes walking away is the only way to move forward. And sometimes the person you save has to be yourself.